RJ Spina, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me. It's my
Yeah,
pleasure.
welcome to Grimerica.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. And nice to meet you too, Darren.
Thank you. You as well.
So, super interesting book. We've done a lot of healing episodes, right? And there's all kinds of different spiritual healing and energy healing and all that. And of course, it always comes up because we deal with chronic issues here quite often as well. So it was really interesting reading your book and trying to imagine, like, would this who would this work for? Who would this step work for? So I mean, I think it's really important, I guess, to start with your own story, and that's a pretty important part of it, right? About how you managed to heal yourself.
Yeah, that's probably a good place to start. I would say that, and anyone who's heard me give interviews, I'll try to spice it up a little bit. But when I was a little kid, I used to leave my body automatic, what we call astral projection. So I would do that quite naturally and without an effort, and it was something that I would do all the time. And for me, it was normal, and until I told my mom that I do this all day long, I didn't realize that it wasn't universal. But one of the things that I used to do when I would astral project or leave my body, and I would travel to what I now understand to be different frequencies, different realities, different dimensions, different parallel conditions, is that even as a kid, I had a strange, if that's not weird enough, I had a strange mantra that I used to say to myself that when I would travel, I would say, I retain all information and knowledge contained within this realm. And I don't know where that came from, but I would do that over and over again. And it felt like every time I did this, and I would do this 3, 4, 5, 10 times a day, it almost felt like that when I returned, so to speak, into my body, I was wiser for it, for the actual excursion that I had outside of my body. And I used to tell my parents and my friends, just off the cuff, if I ever get sick, I'll just heal myself, which
Wow.
is yeah, which is a bizarre, obviously. If those first two things weren't bizarre enough, but there was just a knowingness, Graham. I think if someone would have asked me, even as a young adult, okay, if you do get sick, tell me how does healing actually work? I wouldn't have been able to give an answer, but I knew that I knew. I absolutely knew that I knew. I could feel it in my bones that I know how healing actually works. And we could fast forward. Actually, before we completely fast forward, let me actually share something that I don't think I've ever shared. So, and I kind of just thought about it because I was talking to the PR lady that I just hired, and she was asking me some questions. But anyway, I would say it was about 14 years ago. I got very, very sick. I was in Tucson, Arizona, sort of, and we were traveling, going through the desert, and I got very, very sick, violently sick, and the pain in my gut was just absolutely unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. So I had thought that I'd gotten really bad food poisoning, just terrible food poisoning. And we went to the ER. They put me in an MRI, and they said that their scanner wasn't working properly, and they gave me some Percocet and told me to go home. Right, there was nothing else they could do for me. So this persisted. I felt lousy. The pain was absolutely incredible, but this went on for a week, an absolute week. And I remember I woke up uh, that seventh day, and I said to my girlfriend at the time, I said, if I don't go to the hospital and get this fixed, I'm going to die today. There's just no doubt about it. Whatever is wrong with me has now reached a critical point. So we went to the emergency room. Now that we were no longer in Tucson. We are back in San Diego, California. We had come back, and their MRI machine was working. So when they gave me the MRI, they immediately said, "Mr. Spina, we're going to rush you to the hospital, into the surgery." And I was like, "Okay, what for?" And they said, "Well, you have a burst appendix, and based upon what you've told us, that this happened a week ago, and it's fatal within 24 hours. We don't even know how you're walking around and coherent." So they had this emergency surgery. They said when they opened me up that the when the appendix burst, It's poison. What happened? You die from a burst appendix because your other organs fail. And that's because of the poison that's released, and they start to coat and cover the other organs, and it eats through the membrane that coats each organ, and then it eventually just shuts down. There's a thin membrane around our organs, and then it just eats right through that, and it shuts down the organs. And the surgeon, Dr. Shakay, the surgeon told me that when he opened me up, everyone gasped because the poison was from my groin to the top of my lungs, because it had been fermenting for probably about a week at that point. And so they used the suction device to start removing the poison off the organs. And he said, as soon as they started doing that, he said the organs were pink and pristine. It's as if they were never touched. It's as if it had never happened. It never penetrated anything. And he wrote about it in some medical journal that this was impossible. And they put this gigantic, the size of a TV remote, inside my stomach, because they were giving me about 15 different antibiotics. And this was going to collect, this thing was sort of going to collect all the pus and everything that was in there. And after about 10 days, they have to remove it. And so I came back, and he said, I apologize. It's very painful. I can't put you under because of all the stuff that you've been through. I'm just going to have to literally just yank it out. It's going to be extraordinarily painful. So I'm apologizing ahead of time. And he said, I'm going to give it a count. And on 3, I'll just pull it out. So I said, okay. And he goes, 1, 2. And on 2, I yanked it out myself and handed it to him. And he said to my girlfriend, he goes, I don't think your boyfriend's human. I'm quite sure your boyfriend's not human. So I think I'm just I have an unusual ability to work with healing and to be able to overcome things. And now, if we want, you can fast forward to April 23rd, 2016. I had severe sepsis. I was told I was going to die within 48 hours. I had become permanently, quote unquote, permanently paralyzed from the chest down. I was diagnosed with a retracted heart, pancreatitis, thyroiditis, severe Hashimoto autoimmune disease. I was suffering from autonomic dysreflexia, which paraplegics and quadriplegics die of complications. You can go into a coma. So they had performed emergency life-saving surgery, something called a laminectomy, where they scraped the infection off my spine. And I was already paralyzed from the chest down. And when I woke up from emergency surgery, that saying about, if I ever get sick, I'll just heal myself, the entire know-how on how that actually works from a higher consciousness perspective was right back in my hands. And I literally, and this is all documented, I literally started explaining how self-healing and self-realization actually works. And I was going to put myself back together. I'd walk in 100 days unassisted, and I'll have absolutely no issues. All these different diseases and chronic issues and all this kind of stuff will be absolutely resolved. And I filmed it while I was in the hospital rehab. I filmed my recovery because I knew that no one would believe this was possible for sure. And exactly on the 100th day, I walked unassisted, and all those health issues, chronic health issues, diseases that are supposed to be type 1 diabetes, among other things, that are supposed to be impossible to overcome, have been transcended. And through that remembering of how authentic self-healing and self-realization actually works, I wrote the book Supercharged Self-Healing, and began working with people and helping them to overcome their health challenges. It doesn't really matter what the challenge is, it's just energy. So, and that's really what I've been doing since then. I've created courses and all sorts of things like that. And that's how the know-how came back to me. It was really through the destruction, or near total destruction, of my body and near death. And that's what it took. It took that challenge for me to wake myself up, to be able to access the information that I knew as a kid was inside me, but now it was finally time to bring it back online. And that's when it all came back.
Wow. I think I missed the part in the book about the mantra, or about the connection. I was going to ask you about the connection between, like, knowing how to leave your body as a kid and knowing that there's other dimensions out there, and that sort of extended awareness that you would have over anybody else, and how that sort of was applied to the healing. So you kind of answered that already, but how old were you when that first happened as a kid? Like, are you talking 6, 7, or?
Earlier, I mean, some of my earliest memories. In fact, it's probably one of my earliest memories. I can remember I shared a room with my sister, my older sister, and I was probably about I must have been 3 or 4, and I remember lying down on the bed, and I was tired but not sleep tired, and I just lie down on the bed, and I just reached this sort of state of relaxation, but almost had a sense of light concentration at the same time, which I know sounds odd, but it's kind of like you're starting to fall asleep, but you're still razor clear of everything that's going on. And in that moment, I was outside. I was outside of my body. My consciousness, or what I now call sentience or divine intelligence, which is what we really are. That's the indirect fractal of God. Was outside, literally just looking at my body, and that was the first time. And I realized that I could do it through relaxation and sort of a special form of concentration. And that's when it started, and it's never stopped.
Do you think, how do you think that knowledge got to you as a kid like that, especially the knowing and the mantra, like the to know to create an intention to bring knowledge back with you from those realms? Like, was that like a past life knowledge, do you think? Or how did that, that's pretty unusual for a kid to be able to like have that detailed intention. Cause I do believe with the intention, you can do all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, intention harnesses the power of creation itself. Intention, desire, and intention actually harnesses it. It's what puts creation into motion. Um, I think that you could say it's past life. I would say that the understanding, the wisdom, the know-how, the talent, the ability, however you want to describe it, I would simply say that's just part of what I am. It's part of what we call the soul, but what I call sentience. And sentience is a divine intelligence. It's our level of love and wisdom, whose subsets are talents and abilities. That's what we really are, and that's what's given energy to create. And those two things lumped together have been called the soul, but I've found that they're two very distinct and totally separate things. So I think the know-how, or the remembering, as I sort of came into this incarnation very detached from the human experience, detached from the body, and I think it's just a remembering. It's part of my own wisdom, I guess. I think it's just part of me that, and it's an aspect of gnosis, or self-knowledge, and that immortal self is what we always are, and we carry that from lifetime to lifetime. And I also, just to add to that, I think that once you're able to work in a certain way with yourself in any incarnation, I think you can draw upon it almost like a muscle memory. And the know-how, because I used to say it as a kid, I think the know-how was always there. It just wasn't time. So I just think it's part of what I am. It's literally part of my sentience, or level of love and wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. So when you started to get sick, when you went through this massive sort of healing exercise, what was it like when you started to feel sick?
I thought I was like exhausted, because at the time I was working for a company that I would spend 2 weeks in New York City. I was living in New York City, and I would have to travel every 2 weeks. California, New York, California, New York, every 2 weeks. And I thought I was just getting more and more exhausted from the amount of work that I was doing. And I was doing a lot of work, but also traveling a lot. And I thought I was just getting run down. But then I reached a point where I couldn't focus. I couldn't concentrate. It was the sepsis. I couldn't concentrate. And I remember at one point I said to my partner at the time, I said, I can't meditate. And for me to say that means there's something, really awry. So I remember when I said it, she goes, "We got to go. We have to go to the ER. We have to go to the ER." And so I didn't want to go to the ER because I have no interest in Western medicine. So I agreed to go to urgent care, and urgent care implored me to go to the ER. They said,
Wow.
they said to me, "You seem extraordinarily sick, like you're on the verge of losing consciousness."
Wow.
So you need to go to the ER. I went home, still didn't go to the ER. I'm quite stubborn. Went home, still didn't go to the ER. I finally agreed to go to the ER, and while there at the ER, I became paralyzed from the chest down. I was totally conscious from the actual experience of the abscess that was on my spine, literally just crushing my spine, and I felt organs and everything just shut off. The connection to them would literally just shut off. It's almost like an elevator going down floors, and I could actually feel everything starting to shut down. And that's when they started. They drugged me as much as they could to get me into to do as many tests as they could, and that's when they discovered that I need an emergency surgery on my spine. But the surgeon said we might as well wait because the damage done to his spine is irreparable. It doesn't matter if we operate right now or we operate in 3 days. The damage is done.
So, was it the sepsis then that caused all that other stuff that you mentioned?
I believe so. I think my bloodstream was so sick that it wound up manifesting and expressing itself in all these other various type 1 diabetes, severe Hashimoto autoimmune disease, pancreatitis, thyroiditis, a retracted heart, and autonomic dysreflexia. Autonomic dysreflexia affect paraplegics and quadriplegics whose injury is above T6, and the majority of my spine getting crushed. And there's an MRI of this. People can see this, and you can see the surgeon's notes too, pre-surgery, post-surgery. It's just complete paraplegia. The autonomic dysreflexia affects people with injuries in that area, and autonomic dysreflexia, your autonomic system doesn't work. So your breathing, your pulse, your heart rate, your body temperature has no regulatory, no one overseeing it. So you would just stop breathing. And this happened many things. You just stop breathing, your pulse would just drop, or your heart rate would absolutely skyrocket. Your body temperature would drop 5 degrees in like 5 minutes. It was one of the most bizarre experiences, besides paralysis, one of the most bizarre experiences ever is to have your body, the deepest systems of your body, completely stop working, and then to sort of remember, almost like an ancient yogic practice, to be able to go in and start controlling heart rate, pulse, body temperature. And I was forced to do that because things weren't looking good. So yeah, all that was happening simultaneously and concurrently.
So you had a spiritual life before that, like meditating, and what was your spiritual practice like before that incident?
Yeah, absolutely. Meditating, the leaving of the body, my consciousness it's just something I have always done. I'm quite sure it's not just this lifetime. And so my practice wasn't, say, a religious, an organized religious practice. I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school until 6th grade. My spiritual practice had to do with the exploration of my own consciousness, and to me, that's the metaphysics, the real thing, the tangible truth. Where if we looked at that, we'd finally be able to bridge all the religions, sort of saying the exact same together. If we can look at these things from a purely metaphysical perspective, we would start to understand that they're all saying essentially the same thing. But my practice was the exploration of my own consciousness.
Yeah. So you could leave your body at will at that point, like between being a kid and between this incident. Was that something you regularly did?
Yeah. It's just anyone can do it. I teach people how to do it. It's very simple. It has to do with just relaxation and detaching from the body, the identification with the body itself. And once you allow all the sensations to start to die down, you'll cease to start identifying with the body. And then there's just a certain thing that I teach people to do. It's almost like going up an elevator. As you start to go up, you're changing the electromagnetic frequency of your brain, like you change a radio dial. And as you start to do that, you start to pick up things that are outside of physical sensory perception. And then once you do that, the detachment from the body starts to become more complete, and you're able to literally just let what you really are, just same as the way that we incarnate, and same the way that we demise our body. you just start to leave, and it's everyone would stop fearing death if they learned how to do this.
Exactly. It's so important for humanity that this is sort of one of the big tricks I think that's been played on us, that death is the end and all this, and that bodies are just material suits. I mean, I really feel like this is one of the most important things.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what passes for world culture really has to do with the production and consumption of physical goods, and anything outside of that is deemed just insane. But that's a way to keep human consciousness trapped within the lower frequencies of the physical universe, and therefore easily manipulated, subjugated, and controlled.
Yeah. Darren, do you got any questions before we get into the depth of this?
Well, I think I got the gist of it. Yeah, let's get into it.
So what was it like then? It seemed like the difference between your story and all the other kind of healing stuff we've talked about is you sort of had this intense intention and confidence that you were going to do it. Like you wouldn't let any kind of negative thoughts or obstruction happen. So, I mean, obviously you have to be quite a master at mindfulness or controlling your thoughts and intentions to do that. But also, like, how? I mean, how did you just know all along? Well, I mean, you told us that you learned how to self-heal. That came to you, but I find it quite fascinating how intense, I guess, your belief was.
Yeah, and I would even say, Graham, it's not a belief; it's a knowingness.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. So, and I came into this incarnation, this lifetime, with that knowingness intact, and it was just going to come out when it was the right time, and that was clearly the right time, because if I didn't remember how to do this, I think it would have been over for sure. Healing, how I describe, the simplest way that I can describe it, and of course the book lays out the healing technique that I remembered or was given or created or downloaded, which is really all the same thing anyway. The Ascend the Frequencies healing technique. But healing from a very detached and higher consciousness perspective is essentially the deconstruction of the false self. People call that the ego, the egoic mind, or the slave mind, whatever term you want to use. But it's the human character, because of the collapsing of consciousness and therefore the constriction of our energy, is the reason why we get sick. And when and disease and all these kind of things, any kind of disharmony, right? Whatever conceptualized reality that you create for yourself, the body has the tangible experience of that. And so when we reduce ourselves to body consciousness, which is just 5 senses in the intellect, we're completely cut off from what we really are, our higher mind, and where we come from. So through the deconstruction of the false self, which is, you could relate that to authentic self-realization, or what enlightenment actually is, although that's not required to heal yourself. It might be required to remember the technique and then be able to share it, but it's not required in terms of putting yourself back together. But it's the human character that has the issues. What we really are, the sentience, the divine fractal of God, is untouched by everything that goes on here. I mean, we're literally immortal. Nothing here touches us at all. The body-mind is a part of and attuned to the local environment. And the body-mind is greatly affected by what goes on here. But it's the egoic mind and its story of ill health is the reason why we carry sickness from moment to moment, carry it into the next moment. Now, as you start to deconstruct that false self, its story of ill health goes away. So as the false self is deconstructed, so is ill health. And for me, that's part of one of the most important teachings of that book, is that to understand that as you deconstruct the false self, you start to return to what you really are. And what you really are doesn't get sick. It doesn't die. It's divinity incarnate. It's a much higher frequency. It's not touched by what goes on here. Your body mind is touched. So once you're able to deconstruct the false self, and the book lays out how to do that, its story of ill health goes with it as the ego mind identity starts to leave.
Will that work for like say a blown out knee or something like that?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. I've helped people with everything that you could possibly imagine. If we start to understand that everything is energy, and it is, and even scientists today who don't understand anything will tell you that so-called matter is 99.99999% empty space. And it is, right? And that's not even the half of it. Trust me. So it's just energy. Now, energy can be manipulated and commanded at will, which is what we do all day long, especially as I talk with my hands. I am manipulating and commanding energy as I talk with my hands. We manipulate and command energy in order to think, to emote, to have the body have experiences. Anything can be put together exactly as you deem fit when you're operating at a high enough level of consciousness. So we can't approach things at the same level of consciousness that caused the problem. But if you sort of quote unquote rise up above that, you'll have a completely different perspective of it. And you'll realize that energy can be moved, maneuvered, manipulated in any way that the higher mind deems fit.
What does the mechanism look like that deconstructs the ego? Like when you say you deconstruct that, so you find your sort of true sentience or divine intelligence. How does that enable your body to heal itself? Like where's the mechanism between the two there?
The presence. So what we really are. People have heard the term the I am, the fractal of God, the sentience, consciousness. It goes by probably 1,000 different words, right? So that is what we really are. So what we have to, and that has no disharmony.
Yeah.
Okay. So as soon as that becomes a normalized state, and you can think of that as just being present, and
yeah.
that becomes
present.
Yeah, fully present. You call that meditation, right? But meditation, the self, what we really are is meditation. It's what exists before thinking, before emoting, before the body, before the incarnation. So the self is meditation. So we don't have to do anything.
Right.
We
I
don't
like
have
that.
Yeah, well, and that's the truth. That is the tangible truth. So once that state of just being present, which doesn't require an effort, so how difficult can it be to do something that doesn't require an effort? Once that's normalized, the presence is normalized, the egoic mind is completely silenced. Now, at that point, your story of disharmony is leaving.
Yeah.
And so then it's just a matter of following the steps in the Ascended Frequencies healing technique about how to command higher frequency energy and channel it right into your so-called physical body. And higher frequency energy heals and harmonizes lower frequency disharmony.
So then it goes where it needs to go, or you can actually you put it where it needs to go, and then it just starts to heal itself.
Literally, yeah. And you can think of it as the power of desire and intention.
Yeah.
From a higher state of consciousness is what
Yeah.
makes it powerful.
Yeah.
Does that work for like manifesting too? Like healing and all that is all connected?
It does, Matt. I'm just about to teach a course on manifestation. It does. The issue with absolutely, Darren. The issue with manifesting though is that we are emanating a frequency from our subconscious mind. The subconscious mind accounts for 95% of reality creation. The thinking mind has very little effect upon reality, upon the reality that we create. I don't think most human beings know that. So because we have all these built-in, brainwashed into us limitations, scarcity, lack through a subject-object paradigm, we are emanating a frequency of scarcity and limitation. Now, instead of this is why it's difficult for people to manifest. They don't realize that. And there hasn't been a robust and repeatable process to decondition the subconscious mind. I have a book that comes out in August that is literally how to do that, a step-by-step process to deprogram the subconscious mind. Now, that's the first thing that has to take place, because you can think of the frequency or the emanation of the conditioned, brainwashed, traumatized subconscious mind as a very specific frequency, or like a song playing on a radio. It's very specific. Now, if that's all about lack, limitation, scarcity, the universe will simply have to mirror that, because that's the only thing it can do. Now, that must be deprogrammed first in order to be able to manifest powerfully and properly from the infinite and the abundant I am, or the fractal of God. So that's why most, really all of them, from my perspective, the manifestation techniques don't work, because that's not addressed. That has to be addressed first, because if that emanation is still going on and then we tack on mantras and affirmations, it's like we're playing two songs at the same time. And those are the emanations that are reverberating out into the universe. The universe can't dance to two. I don't know anybody that can dance to two songs at the same time. And that's why we get such mixed, poor results. And the subconscious program is always going to win out anyway, because it's a much more powerful frequency because it accounts for 95% of reality creation. So once that's cleared out, manifestation becomes quite easy. And that's part of the course that I'm literally going to start teaching in 11 days.
I was just going to ask you when. So is it an online course or?
Yeah.
How do people get to that?
It just the website, ascendthefrequencies.com. You'll see the things that are upcoming. There's a total transformation course, which is not what we're talking about. Then there's a manifestation course with specifics in regarding money, wealth. And then there's a retreat that I'm doing in person in October. But people who are interested in the manifestation, there's still time to sign up. I start teaching it on June 11th.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes to that.
I think I'm pretty sure Napoleon Hill had a chapter on trying to get things from the conscious to the subconscious. I can't remember. I think it was Napoleon Hill?
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole key. I mean, if we go back again to 95% of reality is created through your subconscious mind, this is the hidden treasure. The subconscious mind is the hidden treasure. And the book that comes out in August called Change Your Mind, it's the treasure map. It's how to deprogram your subconscious mind. And while I was, just as an aside, while I was writing that book, because I'm my own guinea pig, obviously, put myself back together, do all these kind of strange things. As I was writing Change Your Mind, which is about deprogramming your subconscious mind, as I was looking at my subconscious mind from a higher consciousness perspective, looking at my subconscious mind, I could see the programs of limitation and lack that are programmed that are brainwashed into us when we reincarnate into the low frequency of the physical union. I could actually see them. And I remember I said to my partner, I said, I'm going to just remove these things because there's really no reason for me to keep these here. But I'm going to tell you right now, watch what starts to happen. I'm not going to do anything to generate abundance in terms of wealth. There's nothing I'm actually going to do. It's vibrational engineering. I'm literally going to remove that vibration of lack, scarcity, and watch what starts to happen, because the universe can only match whatever frequency. Like attracts like. The universe can only match it. And as soon as I did that, and I've talked about this once or twice, as soon as I did that, within 3 weeks, I have a nonprofit, Human Advancement Through Higher Consciousness. I was given $100,000, just given it. Didn't ask. It was given to me within 3 weeks of doing that. So it has to do, I call it vibrational engineering.
I love it.
Because it's catchy. But as soon as you remove that, that's how it works. That's literally how it works.
Huh. So, wow. So I don't know if we should transition back to the healing, because that's we should probably have you back on after your book comes out, your other book comes out.
Yeah.
Because it's a super important and fascinating subject.
It is. I kind of feel like, Supercharged Self-Healing shows you how to overcome any mental, emotional, physical, or all the above health challenge that you have. It doesn't matter what it is. And I mean it. It doesn't matter.
So re-engineering your vibrations would help with all the negative thoughts and negative and all the blockages that come. Like, because if you're paralyzed from the chest down, and you've got this confidence that you're going to heal yourself. Like, if I was in that position, I might have the sense like, yeah, I can heal this. But I mean, I would also have this like ongoing struggle in my mind of these negative thoughts coming in, and doubts and worries. And you seem to just be able to just like that, what they weren't even there, or you weren't allowing them in at all. So I guess that seems to me partly like mindfulness practice, and partly, I guess, the re-engineering of the vibrations to sort of clear your subconscious.
Yeah, absolutely. For what I say, for thoughts to land.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it means the ego mind identity must already be present.
Okay.
So the false character,
yeah,
right? I'm a this, I'm a that, blah, blah, whatever it is. The false character is already operating, and that's the only way a thought can land. Now, once we get masterful at being present, you never think.
Yeah. And there is no negative thoughts there, because you're super present. Yeah.
There's no thought. There's absolutely none. Now, what starts to happen in that state is a knowingness. All your inherent wisdom, this timeless wisdom that we have accrued through eons and eons of time, literally start to come back online, and you taste it through your own intuition, and the knowingness returns. And people are freaked out when I say about not thinking, and I, as ridiculous as it sounds, I don't think. I mean, I really don't think. I don't sit and think. I haven't done it, and can't remember how long. So what you end up happening is you end up expressing from what I call the mighty I am. You end up expressing your own perfection, your own divinity, all your talents and abilities. You create. You cease to be a consumer of beliefs, concepts, ideologies, and so-called knowledge. So let me try this, let me try that. You cease to be a consumer, and you realize that you are a creator, and that everything is already within you. Your self-realization is within you. Your self-healing is within you. The achievement of every goal that you desire is already within you. I mean, where else would it be? And by silencing the egoic mind, you're able to access these things. And it's really as simple as mastering being present. That's why I teach these things that I call instantaneous meditation magic tricks, because they're really magic, and I mean it. They're magic, and they bring you to meditation, to clarity in 1 single second without any effort. And that's really the key. That's where we want to build from. It's from that state of being.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that and just like being radically authentic, sort of?
Being your true self and being radically authentic are probably...
Yeah, but
You're talking about the present? You're talking about being present, Darren?
Fill in with the present. I guess it's like, because you got to do some thinking sometimes, right?
Well, I understand. So from a very detached perspective, Darren, what I would say is that when you're really in tune with who you really are, okay, the I am, the true self, your soul, whatever word you want to use, when you're really in tune to that, okay, what we really want to do is express that. Okay, that's just natural. We're creator beings. We feel most like ourselves when we're creating, right? So what's going to happen is when you're really in tune to that, the desire and intention of what you really are is going to start to come online. Now, once you're attuned to that, I'll give you the context. The order of creation, as I directly experience it, the order of creation is desire, intention, thought, emotion, action, and behavior. Okay, that is literally directly what I experienced. That's how creation happens: desire, intention, thought, emotion, action, and behavior, and in that order. And it's descending frequentially in frequency. So when we're present, this radical, what you were talking about before, when you're attuned to yourself, your desire and intention is to express yourself. And when that unification, desire, intention, and your true self has actually occurred, true unification, the only thing you can think about is your true desire and intention, because it comes down like a slinky coming down the stairs in frequency. So when you have unified desire and intention with the radical self, the only thing you can think about is the expression of the desire and self. And so then you're not fighting your thoughts, fighting your emotions, or developing unhealthy actions or unhealthy habits, because they're all a derivative and born of your highest desire and intention of the radical nature of the true self, which is totally unique. So at that point, you don't struggle with doubt. You don't struggle with thinking. You don't question whether you're going to be able to do it. Everything is in complete alignment. So I actually think that's a brilliant question, because I think they're directly related to one another, and you can't have one without the other. Literally,
if you're in that state, you're kind of cleaning that whole beginning of the process. The beginning of the process is purified.
You got it
in a way. Like, it's not stuck with you're not stuck with a bunch of self-doubts and a bunch of stuff like that in there. You're coming to the desire, the important part of that beginning at the higher frequency from a true point.
Yeah, that's the key to all transcendent creation. That's the key to living the greatest life, to any measure of success, no matter how you quantify success, is to be. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, because people kind of, like Darren, I think, was not quite going there, but a lot of people just say, well, what about, you have to plan, you have to schedule stuff, you have to think, you have to look through but I think what you're saying is you can still do all that stuff, but you're just doing it from the moment and not sort of letting intrusive thoughts come in, and you're more focused on the task at hand, kind of thing. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I used to say this. I stopped saying it. I'll say it tonight. I used to say it because it used to freak people out. I used to literally say planning is for cowards, and people would look at me like I was nuts and get offended. The ego mind would get offended. There's a lot of truth in that statement. So when you trust your own mind, you don't need to plan anything. Okay, so it just flows. Now we all know what this is. Now most of us do not have a frame of reference for going through long years, decades of lifetimes without really thinking. We don't really have a frame of reference for that. So we assume that we can't operate without thinking. And you're right, you'll operate beautifully, powerfully, in a transcendent nature without thinking, because thinking is electromagnetic interference. It's not your true signal. That's where we get all the doubt from. So we know, all of us know what the flow state is. All of us, right? Anytime we lose ourselves and become completely engulfed, and whatever I don't even care what it is, but whatever we're doing, we lose ourselves. What we're losing is the ego mind. We lose the false self. So we know what this flow state is like. Are we thinking when we're doing this? Is there any thought whatsoever when we're in the flow? Nope. Now, so just imagine just maintaining that. That's all. Perpetual flow. And we all know we do our best work, right, when we're in the flow state. Every athlete, I'm dating myself. I remember Larry Bird still my favorite basketball player. So I remember when Larry Bird would make, these unbelievable no-look passes and this and that. And he would say, he goes, when I'm flowing, I don't need to think. I can feel everything. I know where everything is. Wayne Gretzky. You don't even have to, yeah. This is what I mean. So I'm talking about maintaining that state. That's all. And everyone knows they do their best work in the flow. Who says we have to turn that off?
I bet I could guess Graham's favorite basketball player.
Spud Webb?
Steve Nash. I just picked the short guy.
Steve Nash, your favorite player, Graham?
Oh, I don't follow basketball. Spud Webb. I mean, back in the 80s, we used to love Spud Webb in the dunk contest.
Yeah,
Was this
absolutely?
He's a real guy.
Spud Webb was like my height, dude, and he won the dunk contest. No, he was a couple inches taller still, but
he was definitely taller than you, unless he had like a 5-foot vertical.
Yeah,
he was 5'6", by the way, Spud Webb.
Wow. Well, there
How
you
tall
go.
are you?
5'5", so an inch taller. But I mean, yeah, he had vertical. I mean, he won the competition. I think back in the late 80s. We used to love those.
Oh yeah, when they first had the dunk, that's when Jordan kind of burst onto the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Unbelievable. I remember Spud Webb. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's get into like a little bit about the process of healing, I guess, because that's, some of the most important parts here. And also, I mean, I love this conversation so far. It's fascinating, but also, I guess the thing I want to get in there too, that you can answer along the way is like people with genetic issues, right? Or what we think of as genetic issues. I'm not saying they are necessarily, but I find that if people are in pain all the time, chronic issues, chronic pain, chronic ailments, I mean, the pain travels around the body in different places. Like it's hard for them to even focus on anything. Never mind about getting into a state where you can start to heal yourself.
Yeah. No, I've been there too. So I mean, I know levels of pain that I didn't think even existed. I got to be honest, complete and utter agony. The kind of pain that doesn't stop, that you feel like you have to just start screaming. So I know exactly what that's like. I lived that. I lived that for months. So I had to teach myself in that state, my body just in complete turmoil. I had to teach myself how to heal myself in that state. Right. So one of the things that I learned to do in terms of dealing with pain was our natural reaction to pain is to tense up, right? Okay, that creates resistance. It actually increases the pain.
Yeah,
makes it worse. Okay, so what I learned to do is that when the pain would kick in, I would actually allow myself to relax and almost like sinking further back, deeper into my body. And the moment that I relaxed and did that, there's this space that gets created between your awareness and the pain itself. There's this space, and in that space is where we can actually start to work. And as soon as you start to create a little space by relaxing, the pain immediately starts to diminish. And as soon as you realize that you actually have control over the pain in that way, people are so enthused and the confidence level goes off the charts when they realize they're not a victim to the pain. They can actually do something about it. And that very simple technique of, instead of tensing up, to actually relax and imagine that you're falling deeper and deeper within your body and that the body is almost in front of you. And as soon as you do that, you get that space, you're going to realize that you actually have some control over the pain. And I promise you, anyone who actually starts to master the things that I talk about, not only can you diminish pain, you could make it stop completely. And I mean it. And I'm talking about the worst pain imaginable, because I've been there. But you can actually, when you work with yourself properly, you can actually have complete command over it.
So would you, to help you relax, would you get into a long, low exhale breath kind of thing? Some breathing techniques or anything like that? I've seen this work. I've seen helping somebody get into that autonomic state, get rid of pain. I mean, but it takes 15, 20 minutes kind of but I mean, you probably get to do it quicker yourself, but would breathing be a part of that?
It can be used. Breath can be used without a doubt. I didn't utilize any of that. For me, it was just directly with my state of being or state of consciousness or frequency or vibration. And one way that we stop everything, where everything stops, where we have instantaneous meditation, all you have to do is pretend that you just arrived here. No past, no future.
That's that 1 second thing you're talking about?
Yeah. Go ahead and do it right now. Tell me if you can even think.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, just getting right into the moment without 10 breaths or whatever. Just get in there.
Not needed. Not needed, because it's the truth, and the truth doesn't require your participation. Lies do. So thinking is past, future, past, future, past, future, and that's what causes suffering. It creates the delusion of knowledge and the illusion of time, which then locks consciousness into the low frequencies. What we're doing is we're activating the higher mind, which has absolutely no limitation. Once the higher mind is activated, you can unparalyze yourself, overcome anything. But when you're locked in the lower consciousness, you cannot. But it's one of the simplest things in the world, these magic tricks. All you have to do is pretend that you just arrived here. No past, no future.
Can you get into the more of the healing process that you went through and how that relates to the 7 steps in your book?
Yeah. The one that I go to all the time for people, in the beginning of the book, I talk about the things that you can do to deconstruct the false self, the egoic mind, right? And that has to do with being able to be present. The thinking stops. And once the thinking stops, the character starts to lose sway. The allure of that character starts to lessen by simply being present. So the book outlines how to do that. Very simple ways, just like pretend you just arrived in a past. So eventually you have such control over the mind that you can effortlessly be present. Now that's the starting line. So now the story of ill health has stopped. You're not telling yourself the story of how sick you are. I'm so sick. Whatever it is, that's stopped now. And one of the most important things to understand is that whatever conceptualized reality that we create for ourselves, the body has the tangible experience of that. That is the mind-body connection in one sentence. So when the story stops, I'm so sick, whatever it is, when that stops, right, the body starts to have the tangible experience of that, because you're not spelling yourself into this ill health. Now, from there, the Ascend the Frequencies healing technique shows you how to command powerful energy, the higher desire and intention from higher states of consciousness. And once you start to command that energy, that higher frequency energy, and you actually bring that into you through your crown chakra, and it's tangible when you do it, you feel it. People are like, this is unbelievable. It's tingling, because you're literally sending electricity through you. Potent, powerful, high frequency energy. And it's simple. This whole thing is simple. It's not complicated, because it has nothing to do with the mind. This is just the higher mind. The lower consciousness complicates everything because it doesn't understand anything. The higher mind already knows everything. We just have to access it. So by bringing ourselves to that state, normalizing that state of being present, we stop telling ourselves a story. The sickness and disease is no longer ramping up anymore. We're actually putting it on pause. And once you put it on pause, now you have some kind of control, and now you can start doing things to enhance the self-repair, self-healing mechanism that the body is already designed with. We never give the body a chance to run its self-repair and self-healing mechanism because we're constantly adding information to it because we don't trust our own healing. We get a cut, it scabs over. New cells are being produced over and over all the time. We never even give ourselves the opportunity to heal. We've been convinced through the medicalization of health that your health lies outside of you. It's one of the biggest lies ever told. There's nothing outside of you. Everything is happening within your own consciousness. Everything is. The whole thing. You don't lack anything. You are a fractal of God. And last I talked to God, he's not missing anything or lacking anything. Neither are you. So when we start to work in this way, it doesn't matter what the problem is. The channeling intelligent energy is one of the most potent and powerful ways to put ourselves back together that anyone could ever do. And that's just one step of the 7 in the Ascended Frequencies Healing Technique.
And you started to create that space for yourself then to start moving, literally practicing to move your legs, to do all that. Like how did that incorporate into the physical healing that you went through?
So when paralysis, you can't, I know this is obvious, but when you're paralyzed, you can't move or feel anything, right? And by the way, what it's like, do you ever get buried in the sand, like to your neck up?
No.
Okay. When I was a kid, we used to do that. It's kind of like that. For anyone who's ever done that, that's kind of what paralysis actually feels like. You can't move 1 inch, and you feel like you're trapped in sand, and you just can't move. To move your leg 1 single inch would be the same as like jumping over the Empire State Building. It's that impossible. So to answer your question, Graham, so what happens is because you can't feel anything and you can't move, as you start bringing in the energy, just think about plugging something in and putting an electric charge through it. So what starts to happen is you actually start to feel the electricity moving through you. And as soon as you start feeling the electricity moving through you, that's the life force now going through the dead area of your body, the paralyzed areas. And for me, it was my whole body from the chest down. But you can actually start to feel the energy coursing through there. Now, once there's life force coursing through there, this is when you can begin the process of reanimating it. Because now it's plugged in. Like if your computer is not plugged in and it's got no charge, it doesn't matter how hard you hit those keys. Nothing's going to happen. But once the computer is charged and it's plugged in, you hit the keys, things happen. So it's the same understanding. Once the energy starts coming through and you actually feel it, you can use that energy to start to repair and animate yourself. And pretty soon, and there's a video right on my website that shows me unparalyzing myself, and it's time-stamped. So you can see it. And you can see it starts with just the foot moving a little bit, then the leg moving, right? Then being assisted to get up on my feet. It is a process of bringing the life force back in through the body. And each time you bring life force in, there is a little more life in there. And that life in there is the self-repair and the self-healing.
Wow, that's fascinating. And you did that in 100 days like you predicted?
Yeah. I said in the ICU that I would walk unassisted in 100 days. And I filmed it, as I said, because I knew no one would believe this was possible. So I made sure that the nurses and some of the physical therapy staff, and even one of the doctors one time was filming me when I was doing this, because they couldn't believe it either. Even though I told them specifically and explained how I would do it, they still couldn't believe it. But the only guest I had when I was in the hospital rehab for about 9 weeks, give or take, if you count when I was first in the hospital to the rehab. So about 2 months. The only guest that I had was a Chinese medicine expert. And he's the one that actually wrote the foreword for the book, because he said, I have to be able to write about this, because this is unbelievable. This is impossible. What you did is impossible. And you said you would do it. You explained how you do it. I have to write the foreword. So the Chinese medicine expert was the one who was seeing me when I was in the hospital rehab. And he wrote the foreword for the book, and he witnessed and helped participate. He witnessed the whole thing and wrote about it. And it is a repeatable, robust process that anyone can do. And that's what the Ascended Frequencies Healing Technique is. People have overcome issues, Graham, they've had for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, lifelong issues that they couldn't overcome. And they start working with these things, and these things just leave them. It just leaves them. When you work with yourself properly, there's nothing that we can't do.
So you got rid of a lot of, or not got rid of, but you made it clear. You set some boundaries about distractions and stuff too, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I knew that putting myself back together at this level was going to require all of my focus and all of my attention and all of my energy. I knew that I couldn't waste a single moment, a single thought on not having it focused on what it is that I need to do, because the challenge was too great. So my family and friends, when they heard, the situation, of course, texting, emailing, calling. So I told my partner, I said, listen, you got to tell everybody in the nicest way, not to call, not to text, not to email. I cannot waste my energy getting on the phone, explaining the diagnosis. How is that going to make me heal? So I knew that. I knew I needed to harness the energy properly. So I had her tell everybody, RJ is sick. He promises he's going to be totally fine. He swears by it. He's going to be totally fine, but he's requesting that no one text him, no one call him, no one email him. If you don't hear from him from a couple of months, it's okay. But RJ, is requesting that you just leave him alone. He's literally going to unparalyze himself. And my friends and family that know me saying I'm going to unparalyze myself is really not that far-fetched coming from me. So they respected that.
It, yeah.
They respected it, and it allowed me to focus. And I didn't allow any distraction, and I didn't even allow certain people into my hospital room that were very negative. Some of there was a nurse and a couple of orderlies that would come into my room because I was living there. They had the worst energy, the absolute worst energy. And I remember I would get on the phone and call the charge nurse and said, listen, you can't allow, I'm not going to say their names. You can't allow, blah, 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 blah into my room. They are interfering with my healing. They're never allowed to set foot in my room again. I mean, I was as serious as a sheet of flame. I knew what I needed to do, and I wouldn't be distracted, and I wasn't going to let anybody throw me off. So creating the proper healing environment, no negativity, and it allows you to focus supremely. If we want incredible, impossible results, we're going to have to focus in that way. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I love it. Wow. So is your book coming out on audio at all? Do you have any plans for audio?
Talk about the first book, Supercharged?
Yeah.
No, that's out. That's it's by the way, it's in its second printing. So that's out. Came out November of 2021. Doing great, changing lives of people all over the world. Really.
What about audio?
It's on audio. I did not narrate it. It's on Audible.
Oh, I thought I looked and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, no, it's on Audible. They wouldn't.
Oh no, I did listen to it on Audible. Sorry.
Yeah,
I thought I listened to the PDF. I'm getting myself mixed up. Yeah. No, it was a good book. It was good.
Yeah, that the next book that comes out, Change Your Mind. I actually do the.
Oh, do you?
The narrating. Yeah, and that's part of the contract now with all the new books that are going to come out.
Yeah, good for you. So what else do we want to talk about with the 7 steps? I mean, because that's an important. I mean, you hit on the real important parts, but what about after you're getting into that groove and all that?
The most important thing, the ascended frequencies healing technique are 7 things that I did over and over and over again. And anyone who does them experiences tremendous results because it's impossible not to. It's literally impossible not to. You're going to be working. It is a completely different understanding of things.
Yeah.
And when you have a different understanding and you do different things, you get different results.
Can you talk about some of the examples of anybody that's
cancer, post-traumatic stress disorder, Lyme disease.
Lyme too. Wow.
It doesn't matter. It's just energy. It doesn't matter. We label these things and give them great power, but ultimately it is literally just energy. That's all the whole thing is. And what we are, the sentience, is what commands energy. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the quote unquote diagnosis. It's irrelevant.
Even if it's genetic, even if it's the so-called like genetic, like it's in your genes,
Genetics are nothing. Genetics are absolutely nothing. It all comes down to the sentience that's operating the vehicle, that's inside the vehicle, that's inside the body. Genetics are a translation way downstream from what are energetic templates. Energetic templates are the form and function. They relate to the chakra system. Energetic templates are the blueprints for our form and function. You can think of them as like an architectural design. And there's many of them. And as our energy and our sentience comes down in frequency, it goes to one blueprint that's related to one chakra. It goes to another blueprint that's related to another chakra. It goes to another blueprint that's related to another chakra. By the time we get all the way down here at the bottom rung, we then have what we call genetics. They're nothing. They're absolutely nothing. Pay no attention to genetics. They don't mean anything. When you work with your higher mind through these different states of meditation, as the book lays out, you are actually accessing these blueprints. Now, most human beings are not going to have their third eye fully open and be able to see all these things, right? Okay, that's just the way it doesn't matter though, because you will tangibly feel what you're doing. Like when you channel the energy, you will tangibly feel the electricity coming through your body. You can't deny that you're healing yourself. So just to come back to genetics, they're irrelevant. And I mean it. They are completely and utterly irrelevant. They're a toy for the lower consciousness to sort of make it all about that. They're irrelevant. They're absolutely irrelevant. It all comes back to the energetic templates. And again, think of a blueprint like an architect. And as energy comes down, and I said it relates to each chakra. There's a blueprint, and then there's the next one down, and each one informs the other until you finally get to the lower frequencies, and then you have full form and function. But it all relates to that. And the higher mind can access those things. Whether you can see it or not, doesn't matter. I'm glad I can see it because then I can point it out and explain it. But it doesn't really matter. As long as you work with yourself properly, you are going to be changing yourself at the etch-a-sketch level, where form and function is first put together. And the key is to be able to go to that state, and your desire and intention rewires, reroutes, and recreates everything based upon what it is that you're trying to achieve. And that's really the only thing that matters.
Wow. Darren, do you got any questions?
No, I think that was well said. I think, well, I mean, I have a bunch of questions, but I think they're probably better saved for another show where we can maybe focus on the new book when the new book comes out, because they're all sort of more based on the manifestation side of things. I mean, I think that the two are probably pretty closely tied, but I don't want to take away from that on this one. If you have another book coming out later this year, and we can just talk about it then.
Yeah,
it sounds very Hillian, you know. It's very very along the lines of Napoleon Hill's thinking, from what I can tell so far.
Yeah, the people that have learned how manifestation works are going to be operating in the same ballpark. For me, from a higher consciousness perspective, to be able to actually see these things, my whole goal was to develop a system that anyone can do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for me, and Change Your Mind is literally the blueprint on how to deprogram your subconscious mind. And as we've talked about before, this is the uncharted territory. The subconscious mind, 95% of reality creation. There's absolutely no way that we can create the life that we know that we're all truly capable of when 95% of it is coming from our subconscious mind that we don't even have access to. It's
and which is programmed with a bunch of garbage.
All of it. All of it. The whole thing is brainwashing, trauma-based mind control. If anyone doesn't know that, they need to wake up. So everything that we are programmed into is about scarcity, lack, limitation, subject-object paradigm, disempowerment. That's the whole thing. That's the name of the game down here. That's why it's such a challenge to be here. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. But until we learn, and this is what the book is about, until we learn how to take what's buried back here and bring it into your conscious mind, you will only recycle your experiences. But once we bring the program into the conscious mind and you see it consciously, you can delete it. Because once you see it, you look at it and be like, I am never abiding by that again.
Yeah.
What a bunch of nonsense. Gone.
Yeah.
And so the book is the process to absolutely do that.
Yeah. Right on. Do you think we covered everything?
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it. If there's anything that you guys that we didn't cover that you want to ask, or, you know, as Darren said, maybe there's some of the stuff about the manifestation. The course itself starts June 11th.
Yeah.
And I teach things, as you can imagine now, I teach things that no one else is teaching. And I mean that. I teach things no one else is teaching. What I understand about money manifestation specifically, what I understand about it is absolutely and utterly revolutionary. absolutely revolutionary. And it's a repeatable, robust process that anybody can do. And when people start doing it, they can't believe how simple it is.
Yeah.
They can't
Where can
believe it.
people get the info on that?
How long is it for?
It's 9 weeks.
9 weeks, like an hour a week for 9 weeks or something
Yeah,
like that? Or?
hour and a half. Yeah, hour and a half. It'll be almost like this. Me
Yeah.
rambling on and on about these things.
Yeah.
But it's filled with how to deprogram, but also it's filled with what to do. There's an actual process. It's not just about deleting the programs of lack, limitation, and scarcity. We absolutely do that because we have to do that. But then there's an actual, just like the Ascend the Frequencies healing technique, it's like, here's the 7 things you actually do these things.
Yeah.
So the money manifestation, it's an entire ebook. It's like 175 pages. So you actually do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. So it's a step-by-step process. Not only is it deprogramming, but it's actually what to do as well.
I love it. Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes to that, and let's have you back on when your next book comes out. I just flew by. I thought it was an amazing chat. I think it's super inspiring, and yeah, like you said, it's different from all the other healing stuff that we've looked at.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's not the healing through belief, which is completely and utterly inaccurate. You don't heal through belief. It's a step in the right direction. It's not belief. It's knowingness, which sends a signal to self-repair and self-healing. It's knowingness, which is a very specific vibration and frequency. And that allows healing to take place. Beliefs have nothing to do with it. We use beliefs when we don't know. And beliefs, by definition, from a metaphysical perspective, definition, if we could actually see these things, and quite frankly, I can actually see them. A belief is anything whose landing spot lies outside of the self. I believe in a heaven out there. There is nothing out there. Everything is within your consciousness.
Yeah.
So you don't heal through belief. You heal through knowingness. And it's a very, very specific state of being and state of consciousness. And the Ascend the Frequencies healing technique puts you in that exact frequency and vibration. And the body must respond, because whatever conceptualized reality we create for ourselves, the body must have the tangible experience of that. The body's designed to repair itself. This only puts it, increases it by an order of magnitude when you do the teachings in the book.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, this has been great, RJ. I look forward to chatting again, and I might check out that course. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope to see you there. Thank you very much,
not
guys.
something I have a ton of, but
Yeah.
I can always squeeze somewhere out. Maybe I'll send Graham and he can report.
I'll go. Do you want to mention your website and how they can find you just verbally before I put it in the show notes?
Sure. The website is Ascend the Frequencies. It's right behind. Wait, if I go this way, there it is behind me. So it's ascendthefrequencies.com. The YouTube channel, there's got to be about 100 hours at this point, with all the interviews I've done and all the videos I've made. Probably 100 hours of free material if people want to get more accustomed to these teachings and these understandings. The YouTube channel is just Ascend the Frequencies, and the Instagram is Ascend12. The number 12. But the website, I encourage everybody to sign up for the newsletter, because I talk about things and offer things all the time that is really, truly unlike anything else. Sign up for the newsletter, and that way people are kept abreast of the next class, the next event, the next book, the next course, and that way people know. And there's another course too I might as well mention. I do it on a rotating basis. I call it Total Transformation. So I've worked with so many thousands of people over the last 7 years that I understand the main challenges that humanity faces in terms of what's universal, whether it's self-sabotage, trauma, self-doubt, things like this that every single person struggles with. So I have it's rotating, but I'm always teaching one, and it's called the Total Transformation. And I go over these most challenging issues that every human being has, and I completely and utterly deconstruct them from a very, very different perspective. And then I'm able to give the tools to people where they're able to transcend these things, whether it's self-sabotage, self-doubt, and they're able to work with themselves in a way that they were never able to work with. And so that's something that I do. And there's another one that's starting. It's called Total Transformation. It's on the website. That one is starting. Boy, you would think I would know. I think it's coming up on the 18th, June 18th. We're kind of ending one now. It goes on for 7 weeks. We're wrapping one up, and then the very next week I do another one, and it's a different topic. There's 6 different topics. I teach one each week of the class, and this one coming up, how to overcome chronic illness, the true origin of secret societies.
Ooh,
Really? Yeah. I have a very different understanding of really everything. So, and you go to the website, you'll see the topics, and these are questions and issues that, like I said, I've been answering for the last 7 years. I've worked with thousands and thousands of people at this point, and so I know where the struggle is.
Yeah.
And so the courses are a lot of fun. I joke around in the courses, but people learn things and they improve their lives in ways that they really just didn't think was possible until they start availing themselves of the teachings.
Right on, buddy. Thanks. Good luck with that.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Have a great night, RJ.
Thank you. You too. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
And that was a chat with RJ Spina. What'd you think, buddy?
Oh, man, I just in a state of gratitude for an awesome night of podcasting.
And
last 2 guests, just incredible.
I'm in a state of gratitude for your collared shirt.
I'm going to order that book for Maria.
I expect a collared shirt every week now.
Yeah. I have to, dude, this was the loose collared shirt. Now it's the tight one. I think it shrunk.
I don't think that's
the shirt shrunk.
I'm surely that's not the case.
So, no, I mean, I'm going to get the physical book. I listened to the audiobook, but I need a physical copy here. And I think that, I think you might be onto something pretty huge.
Here's hoping.
Yeah.
And, well, do the course. Let us know what you think.
The manifestation one, yeah.
Wasn't there a chronic illness one too?
Well, no, that's just the one night thing. It's the one. But I think I'll do I might look at the manifestation one.
Well, big thanks to RJ for coming on the show. Maybe you guys could manifest your way over to grimerica.ca/support and manifest us some support in the form of a monthly donation or a monthly subscription or a one-time donation, or head over to Grimerica Outlaw and check out that podcast if you like us. If you don't, maybe you'll check out that one. Maybe you'll like it better. Maybe you won't. But either way, support the work at grimerica.ca/support. We've been doing this over 10 years now. Technically, our 10-year anniversary is tomorrow. We're doing a live stream for it. But by the time this comes out, we've already, we're over the hill. So, big thanks to RJ for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Grimerica.ca for everything we're up to. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week. Thanks for tuning into the live show, guys. If you guys come back tomorrow night, we'll have our big 10-year bash. So come check it out. You can ask us some questions. Do whatever you want.